We are doing our first live show, which is so exciting because I have our Eagles Brawl insider. He covers the Eagles for Sports Illustrated. Ed Kracz joining the show. Ed, I'm so excited to talk birds with you, man. It's finally here. Week 1 is tomorrow for the Eagles.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it? I mean, we never thought we'd get to this point with the pandemic and everything and the protocols that were put in place. We thought, there might be some interruption, but so far so good. Had the opener Thursday night, full slate of games Sunday, and then Mondays are a couple games. I mean, we're off and running. I'm pumped.
I'm so excited to talk birds with you, man. So I'm so pumped, man. One thing I really want to get into, though, before we even get into the preview, is what is going on with Lane Johnson?
The ankle clean out on the end of August there. Hasn't practiced, done much. He was limited. There's a pretty good chance he's not going to go on Sunday, and of course that would leave the Eagles a little short on offensive linemen. Brooks is out, tore his Achilles in June. Dillard tore his biceps in August, and now Johnson. I mean, that's 3/5 of the line the Eagles thought would be lining up on opening day when they put this thing together back in the spring. But I'd be surprised. Lane's as tough as they come, and he's going to do everything he can to go. But ultimately, I think it's going to be the decision of this new medical team. The Eagles replaced a lot of the medical personnel from last year. They were kind of under fire last year for letting guys return probably too soon from injury. So they're going to take it real slow. And if Johnson can't go, man, it's really going to make things very dicey on the right side of that line.
Yeah, what would you think they would do? I would assume you play, I guess, Matt Pryor at right tackle, which scares me because I don't think Matt Pryor can play offensive tackle. And then Nate Herberg at right guard.
That's probably it. I mean, Jack Driscoll, the rookie, he's worked in some at that right guard spot and the right tackle spot. So, would they throw him in there? I don't know. I think it's going to be Pryor. Never played tackle in an NFL game, played some guard last year. And then you're going to see the debut of Nate Herberg, who just turned 22 in July, undrafted free agent. He came out early from Stanford. He thought he'd be a draft pick. Jason Kelsey said earlier this week that he's had a great camp, Herberg has. But again, it's his debut. You never know how a guy's going to react. And then what happens, Connor, if Jason Peters limps off in the second quarter on Sunday? Then who are you throwing at left tackle? With Matt Pryor already lined up at right tackle. And it's going to be probably Jordan Mailata, who just started playing football 2 years ago. So, this is a real big question mark for the Eagles going into the opener. And just a few months ago, we never thought it would be this way. We thought the offensive line would be a strength. With the injuries that have happened, it to me now is a bigger question mark even than the wide receiver spot.
The crazy thing is, if Lane plays, they're starting the season how they ended the season at offensive line. So, I'm more confident in that per se because I think the chemistry is going to be a little bit better. But yeah, Pryor's at right tackle and Jordan Mailata's the left tackle. It's going to be a long day for Carson Wentz, especially because we can't underrate that Washington defensive line. No. They have so many guys. They have Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Ryan Kerrigan, Ryan Anderson, and then the interior, they have Payne, they have Allen, they have Matt Ioannidis. It's a lot of guys that Washington's going to throw at us.
You rattled those off, Connor, man. You know your stuff there because you're right. Those are the guys, and they're going to rotate all of them. And, it's the first game, so that I know Schwartz anyway. He's going to have a heavy rotation on that defensive front. And Jack Del Rio is probably going to do the same thing down there in Washington.
All right, Jack Del Rio is a good defensive coordinator, too. I think that was a good pickup for them if Rivera lets him take the reins completely on defense. But so what did your guy tell you about Lane Johnson, though? Just Ed Kratz's prediction out there. What do you think? Does he play?
Wow. I would have said yes until, the news broke about the ankle clear out.
That's so weird. That went way under the table.
I'm going to say, yeah, he's going to play. I don't know if he'll play every snap. It could, we could see a rotation where they do put Herberg at right guard and Lane starts at right tackle with Matt Pryor waiting in the wings. But I'll go out on a limb, and I think it's a 50-50 call at this point, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, he's going to play.
Good. I hope he does. And then we were talking last night about Miles Sanders, and you kind of worried me a little bit because I do have Miles Sanders on my fantasy team. You mentioned you don't think that he gets a ton of usage, which I when your reasoning, which we'll get into in a second, I was starting to agree with. Do you think they take it slow with Miles Sanders at week 1?
No, absolutely. I mean, the guy hasn't done anything for almost a month. I don't see how, unless there's this huge smokescreen that Doug Peterson and the team were throwing out there on Miles Sanders. But, look, I've been at, a lot of the practices, most of the practices, and Sanders just kind of stands there taking his so-called mental reps. He doesn't really do anything physical at all. So it would make no sense to me, unless, like I said, it's a giant smokescreen, that they're going to put him out there and have this huge, 40 to 50 snap load for him. I think if he plays, it's going to be, a very limited amount of reps. They don't want to burn this guy out or subject him to further injury. I mean, you got to remember the NFL season is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It'd be nice to have him out there, but I think the Eagles might be confident that they match up well enough against Washington and they'll be able to score some points against them, even if Sanders does not play or if he only plays in a limited role. I think he's going to be a limited participant on Sunday.
Oops, sorry about that. I disconnected for a bit. But you said you think he's gonna be a limited participant. We actually got a good question from Dakota on here that I'll put on the screen real quick. What's the deal with our players getting surgeries at weird times? Seems like they're the only team that has these weird medical problems.
Well, yeah, maybe they're the only. I don't think they're the only team. There's probably other teams out there. We're just so hyper focused on the Eagles that we see it happening. It is kind of strange. I'll agree with Dakota there. It is very strange that this surgery just kind of popped up kind of out of nowhere at the end of August, and the Eagles never really said anything. I mean, they'll answer our questions, but are we supposed to ask, these medical questions about every player when they're hurt? So, it was curious that Lane Johnson has never been made available to talk to us via Zoom. Lane will usually say what's on his mind, and he probably would have revealed something about the ankle. But it is very strange that this kind of came up kind of out of the blue, 2 weeks really before the season. He has this surgery. I've had operations on my knee, just clean out procedures, and, it's a good 2-3 weeks before I'm ready to play. So I think Lane's close. Whether or not he's able to answer the bell in the opener, I don't know. But I think if not, he would be ready for week 2 against the Rams.
It's crazy to me that now we signed Javon Hargrave this offseason. He's a huge, because I think that's the biggest free agent signing. I've said multiple times in the I thought that was their biggest offseason move, Javon Hargrave. Now we don't know when we're going to see him. Do you have a feeling on that, Ed? Do you have any type of idea when Javon Hargrave's going to be on the field for Philadelphia?
Well, maybe we'll have, like Dakota said, some weird surgery will reveal itself this week that he had some kind of operation and he's going to miss the month. But I think the fact that he wasn't put on IR, which, you have to miss the mandatory 3 games. I think that Hargrave not being put on the IR is a good indicator that he'll be back either against the Rams week 2 or the Bengals week 3. But right now, week 1, we're just going to have to wait and see his debut. And you're right, he was the big free agent acquisition in the offseason, signed a 3-year, $39 million deal. So you want to see him play. I mean, it's the same old story with this D-line. It always seems like there's an injury. Last year, Malik Jackson. 2 years ago, Tim Jernigan. And now here we are with Javon Hargrave. So just bad luck on that D-line these last couple of years.
It's a good opportunity for Malik Jackson to show his redemption. The redemption year. I'm here, Philadelphia. Here we go. Let's rock. Get my revenge versus Washington, who ended my season last year. I'll be interested to see if he lives up to that, because Fletcher Cox needs that defensive tackle 2 position, my guy. He needs somebody there to step it up for him. Last year, everybody wants to say a down year, but he's coming off surgery, and then he has all these rotational revolving door at defensive tackle 2. It's important this year that the Eagles get this right.
Well, I think Fletcher's going to have a monster year, whether he's got guys next to him or not. I mean, and he talked about how he feels great. Didn't have a training camp last year. I mean, I did a predictions column of my offensive and defensive MVPs that were included in that. And, spoiler alert, my defensive MVP is Fletcher Cox. I just think he's going to have a double-digit sack season. His career high is 10.5. And, that guy's just a beast. And, he's really geared up for a big year. I beast. Because I just think he's going to make, he's just attacking the line like he wasn't able to do it last year with the foot injury, the foot issue. But I think you talk about Malik Jackson, and I think he's going to have a nice year too. But to me, Fletcher Cox is he's the engine of that line, and I think he's really going to be fired up to play and have a good season.
Absolutely, I completely agree. I think the additions that even with Ridgeway back healthy, Willie Jackson, when Hargrave does come back, the impact that Hargrave's going to bring is just immense. So, I mean, you see him clearing so much space for guys in Pittsburgh like T.J. Watt, Bud Dupree, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt. To imagine what he's going to do here with Derek Barnett is going to be the huge benefactor of Javon Hargrave. You and I talked about it multiple times. Yeah. But that presence that Javon Hargrave is going to bring, it's a shame that Philadelphia's not going to get a chance to see that week one because it's there. It's real. I think a lot of people got stuck on his box score when the Eagles signed him. But this player has a potential being a superstar as well as Fletcher Cox. I'm so in on Javon Hargrave. I'm excited to see him. I hope he comes back soon.
And he's playing in a completely different defense than he did in Pittsburgh.
Exactly.
He's more of a occupy a blocker type defense in Pittsburgh and let those great linebackers the Steelers typically have make the plays. Philadelphia, attack under Schwartz. Get off the ball, get upfield, and look for the ball. That's how they play, and that's going to fit Hargrave to a T.
Oh, I completely agree. I remember he's coming out in 2016, and I saw an East and West Shrine game. I'm like, this guy can really rush the passer from the interior. His size would fool you completely because the motor is there to be a pass rusher. Obviously, goes to Pittsburgh Steve. That's not what he's asked to do. I think he had played like 200 something pass rushing snaps anyway. So excited to see what he does here, especially with a healthy Malik Jackson. That's just going to be crazy. But another thing I want to get into is Jalen Reagor. What a shock! First comes out. The first reports are like 4 to 6 weeks. Maybe misses the first month of the season. Now he's going to play on Sunday. Is there a cause for concern where the Eagles are rushing guys again, where the Deshaun Jackson all over again, or is this just like that injury wasn't that bad as what we initially feared in the beginning?
Well, let's, to compare it to Deshaun, I mean, Deshaun was, 32 years old when he had his injury. The healing and the recuperative powers are probably not as great at that age as what they are with Jalen Reagor, who, how old's Jalen? 22, maybe? I'd have to check. But
he's 22.
Maybe getting back to what Dakota said, maybe another big story will come out this week that Reagor went to the Lourdes over in France and dipped his shoulder in the healing waters, and now all of a sudden he's fine again. That'd be a great story if that was the case. But
that would be a good story.
Yeah, I just think it's a testament to the youth, being a young guy able to recover quickly, being an athlete, being in terrific shape when the injury occurred. But he was a full participant in practice at the end of the week, and I just don't see how, if you're the Eagles, if you're a full participant and you like what you see and you're not feeling any pain, go ahead and play. Let's see what you got. Give you a package of plays. See how you feel in game. If you're not feeling up to it, we'll pull you. But let's give it a ride. Let's see how you do.
Especially against Washington. I mean, that secondary, I think that's the perfect test for him. Like, you know what? Just get your feet wet, rookie. Go ahead and get out there. I'm assuming he plays majority of the slot. I would assume he takes majority of his snaps that game in the slot. So then I'm looking at his. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, something interesting when we talked to Deshaun this week. So, Deshaun was a surprise guest on the Zoom interviews, and he talked about finding a way to kind of limit his snaps or manage his reps, being 33 years old, which was kind of interesting. So they want to get him through a 16-game season and maybe beyond if you get into the playoffs. So he talked about health being the key, and he might have to manage those reps. And if he does, then I could see Jalen coming out of the slot and lining up where Jackson would line up to give him some time on the sideline so you can get him through a whole season. So I wouldn't say the majority of his snaps are going to be in the slot. I think he will get time in the slot, but I think he'll get time outside as well.
I would like that. I'm just looking at the matchups. He's probably playing Jimmy Moreland, Ronald Darby, which is Dakota is mentioning below the screen there. Fabian Monroe, because I don't think Fuller's going to play. That's not bad. I think Jalen Reagor could send us a hey, I'm here, an NFL rookie. I'm here. But I also think it's going to be a big game for Deshaun. I know they're probably going to manage him, as you said. That makes complete sense. I think they should absolutely do that, by the way. That's a completely smart move on the Eagles' part, especially because now you have a wide receiver corps you can move all around. You don't have, you and I mentioned numerous times on Eagles Brawl. You don't have the Nelson Aguilars, you don't have the Jordan Matthews that can only perform one spot on the field. You have guys that you can rotate all around. Even John Hightower. I think John Hightower could have some sort of. I don't want to say he's gonna have a big game, but I think he has some sort of impact, even if it's just through the speed.
Yeah.
If Deshaun lines up in the slot too, I mean, I'm interested to see. What I'm interested to see, Ed, is what elements Rich Scangarello brings to the Eagles and how they implement them week one. I want to see some new things. I want to see some more Carson Wentz out of the pocket, especially since we're talking max protect and the offensive line being as it is. Carson Wentz is probably going to have to make a lot of things done from the pocket, from outside the pocket against Washington, that D-line. I want to see these new elements. I want to see what they do. I want to see them move guys around. I want to see Deshaun burn from the slot. I want to see J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Look at these matchups this week. This is the matchup to get J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's confidence up. It's like Fabian Monroe hasn't really panned out in Washington so far. You said yourself, Kendall Fuller is gone. Ronald Darby, I'm not worried about, obviously. Jimmy Moreland is a smaller nickel corner who's probably barely average. I'm liking the matchups for our wide receivers this week. I'm not going to lie to you, my friend.
Yeah, I like them too, but you want to see different elements. Of course, I think we saw Carson roll out a little bit more during these training camp practices that we saw, and I think that you're going to see that. But I don't think you're going to see everything kind of implemented at once. I think the Eagles are going to take the wrapping off slowly as the season goes along. They don't want to show too much too soon unless they absolutely have to. We'll see how that goes. My dog's sitting here growling at me. Just excuse me 1 second while I let him go do where he's going to go here.
Go right ahead, Ed. And I'm going to adjust the comments of Dakota. I am extremely excited. Ed and I were actually just talking about this last night. I'm extremely excited to see Corey Clement. So let's just get into this a little bit, Ed, what we were talking about last night with Miles Sanders. If this is the game, if the Eagles truly are going to go the route that you believe they will go, which I'm starting to think so too. This is the game you find out what you have at running back at that. This is the game where you see a Boston Scott, Corey Clement, because as you can see on Dakota's comment right there, you can see if these guys can, because I think the reason you keep these running backs is you think they can give you a specific role. You don't necessarily think that they can replace Miles Sanders because you want to give Miles Sanders a high workload this year. You want to showcase to the world what Miles Sanders could do. You want to show everybody Miles Sanders could be your next LaShawn McCoy. But you need those Darren Sproles type guys behind him. You need that Bryce Brown type guy behind him. You always need that backup running back that can produce behind him. So I'm interested to see if Boston Scott and Corey Clement can make some type of magic happen. Prove to the Eagles, like Boston Scott receiving, by the way, every 7 snaps Boston Scott was on the field last year, he had a first down. I want to see that type of production translate into year 2. I want to see if Corey Clement can some kind of magic from 2017 bring him back to the field. I want to see him catch these screen passes and just take off. I want to see him run a little bit better. I thought my biggest knock on Corey Clement with the Eagles was he doesn't really hit the holes that well. I want to see him run a little bit better. If they show you that they can offer you some certain type of roles when you have to take Miles Sanders off the field for a breather, where Boston Scott could be a good receiving threat, a little short yardage back, where Corey Clement can come in on these screens, also run the ball a little bit well, I'll be good at running back then. I'm fine. They have all these guys that contribute roles, because if you bring a veteran in, you're telling Boston Scott and Corey Clement, we either have to get rid of you or you're going to have to be inactive on game day because I can't get you into the field. I want to showcase as much Miles Sanders as I possibly can. Look, when you have a running back on a rookie contract and his legs are as fresh as Miles Sanders, you use him as much as you can before that contract runs up. So everybody's all focused on what if Miles Sanders goes down? What do you have behind him? Worry about that when it happens, if it happens. I'm not going to anticipate him missing a large portion of time right now when I have guys like Boston Scott and Corey Clement that I think can provide pivotal roles in the passing game, in the short yardage game. I don't need to bring in a Devontae Freeman to come in and then actually play very well to the point where I have to push Boston Scott and Corey Clement off the field. That's just my thing with it, Ed. I think I want Miles Sanders to get as much as they possibly can out of him this season at a LaShawn McCoy level. That's where I'm at with Miles Sanders. I want to see them use him like a featured back, but I also want to see Boston Scott spell him in ways to get in short yardage, good receiver, and I want to see Corey Clement bring back some kind of 2017 magic. Is that too much to ask for?
No, it's not. But we've seen what Boston Scott can do. I mean, I think the Eagles know what Boston Scott can do. I mean, he technically is the reigning NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Remember, the season finale last year against the Giants, wrapped up FC East. Sanders hurt and stepped in, no problem. 3 touchdowns in that game. They gave him the ball out of the backfield. They threw the ball to him. So, Scott is a known commodity. Has he reached his ceiling? Maybe that's what we can begin to find out. I don't think he has. I think Scott is capable of carrying the load. He's a young guy. He's built like a brick house. I mean, you talk about his height isn't the great. They list him at 5'6", but he weighs 205 pounds. I mean, come on. That, to me, that guy's a former high school state powerlifting champion in Louisiana. That guy is cut and ripped, and he can carry the load. Trust me. I believe in Boston Scott. Corey Clement has to prove that he is healthy, can stay healthy. Again, do you want to overwork him week 1? Maybe not. I think this is a time, week 1, if Sanders is limited, doesn't have the full complement, I think you find out more about what you have by bringing up somebody from the practice squad. Or they still have Jason Huntley, a guy that they put a waiver claim in for, who is very fast. The Detroit Lions drafted him in the 5th round of this past spring's draft out of New Mexico State. Guy runs a 4.37 40, sticking to the theme of fast. I don't know how much he's learned in the week since he's been here after they claimed him last Sunday when the Lions cut him. But this would be a good game for him to show a little bit. But again, I'm not sure how big of a role he'll have. The Eagles could activate someone like a Michael Warren or Elijah Holyfield from the practice squad and let them show in a debut situation a little bit of what maybe they can do going forward. I think that's more who you want to find out about is guys like that. Clement, can you give him a few carries and can he stay healthy with those few carries? But maybe more so like a guy like Huntley, and even I think a practice squad guy that could be activated in a Warren, Elijah Holyfield, or Adrian Killens. We'll see. But week 1, I think, would be a good time to start showing some of that depth.
Were you surprised that Holyfield didn't make the team?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he had a great camp. I'm not sure, when Doug was asked about the practice squad and running backs, Warren was the first name he mentioned, Holyfield second, Killens third. I don't know if that means a whole heck of a lot, but yeah, I thought Holyfield did everything, showed everything possible. He's a hard runner. The Eagles really don't have that power type of back on the roster, but I think Holyfield could be that short yardage punishing inside the 5-yard line type of running back, and I see that. I'm not sure why the Eagles don't see it, or maybe they do, and they'll show us that they do by how they use him as the season gets going.
I agree with you. So Zach Ertz's press conference, man, that was a touch of reality. Playing like this is my last season in Philadelphia, quoted by Zach Ertz. I'm getting Malcolm Jenkins type vibes from the Zach Ertz situation now, and I'm kind of a little worried about it because you know where I am in the Zach Ertz camp. I keep him at all costs. I know where you are. You believe that they would have got a deal done. Where's your thoughts now?
Well, it could just be part of the negotiation process. Ertz kind of throwing that out there to say to the Eagles, look, this is how I feel about things. You've been dealing with my agent, but this is how I feel about it. And put them on notice that, he wants to stay here and he doesn't think the Eagles believe in him. It was interesting to hear Zach say that the contract stuff kind of occupied his mind during a couple practices, that, he found himself wandering and thinking about the contract as practice was going on. And you can't have that during the regular season. And I don't, Zach's an ultimate professional. I don't think he'll have any any problem keeping a lid on those thoughts as the regular season. It's just a shame that they couldn't get something done because, Ertz to me is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. You hate to see them go away and trade him. I mean, it's tantalizing to think about what you could get for him in a trade. But to me, I just, I think they need to find a way to make it work, to bring him back. I know you have Dallas Goedert sitting there, but Ertz is a polished route runner, the best route runner I've seen in my 10 years covering this team, and aside from maybe Deshaun. But I would hate to see them part ways with Zach Ertz, and for him to say those kinds of things, that the Eagles don't have this mutual feeling of bringing him back. They were strong words. And if I'm Howie Roseman, my ears are up, and I'm trying to get something done the best I can. They're hoping for a hometown discount, I would say, but I'm not sure Zach's that inclined to give it to him.
Well, you can't give Jason Peters that money and then not give your Hall of Fame trajectory tight end a pay raise. I thought Mike K of NJ.com said it best this week. You just can't pay these guys, set this precedent, and then tell Zach Ertz, hey, I'm gonna need you to take a little pay cut. The guy is the whole entire offense, though, Ed. See, here's my thing about Dallas Goedert that I have to get off my chest. I don't think he's Zach Ertz. I think he's a very good player. I think they do stuff completely different. I just don't think Dallas Goedert can be the caliber of player that Zach Ertz is, because we're talking future Hall of Fame tight end. My thing is, I don't think Zach Ertz ruins any opportunities for Dallas Goedert. I look at all the stats. Dallas Goedert played 769 snaps, I believe, last year, which was 300 more than Mark Andrews, who we all know had an incredible season at tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. He missed 33 fewer snaps to George Kittle, who, again, George Kittle did miss 2 games, I'm fully aware, but you get my point. He was 11th in targets for tight ends. So it's not like the opportunities aren't going Dallas Goedert's way. The stigma that everybody has in their head that Zach Ertz is ruining Dallas Goedert's chance to emerge, I don't think that's true, Ed. I don't think it's true at all. And you have a head coach who has been clearly committed to 12 personnel. It's not like when he first got hired, they didn't mention 12 personnel right off the bat. They did. They started utilizing him with Brent Stellar, Trey Burton, and Zach Ertz. They win a Super Bowl. And then the first pick that they have after winning a Super Bowl, they used it out on tight end and Dallas Goedert, who, Lord knows, they knew they had Zach Ertz still playing at a high level. I don't see this team switching away from 12 personnel. I don't see this team ever trying to shy away from 12 personnel. I think it has to take a 2017 type season where Nelson Aguilar is playing way better than what Brett Selleck and Trey Burton can give you. I'm not sure. I don't think so at all this year. You get that third wide receiver that shows that to you for the Eagles. I don't think it's going to happen this year. So, again, I think you're, majority 12 personnel. You just have the speed on the outside at least. But the stigma that everybody seems to have is that Zach Ertz holds Dallas Goedert back. I think that's completely wrong.
Yeah. Well, I'll say a couple things. First, I like this comment from Dakota that if the Birds do the Dawkins treatment to Ertz, I'm going to go on a week-long binge of Long Island iced teas. That's great.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong, man. He's not wrong. I will too.
Yeah. Well, here, first of all, the contract situation. You mentioned them giving Peters the extra money. Lane Johnson restructured his contract in order to free up that money. He turned his guarantee or his base salary into a guarantee situation where he's guaranteed that money instead of getting a base salary during the season. So that's where that money came from. It was through Lane Johnson restructuring his contract. Howie Roseman's on record as saying they're up against the salary cap. They can't bring any big contracts. You think the Eagles like 12 personnel. I might tend to disagree with you here. I think the Eagles want to get away from 12 personnel. I think they want to get more into an 11 personnel situation. And, I mean, they drafted these receivers for speed, and they drafted 3 of them. I mean, they want to get 2 receivers on the field, if not 3 in the slot, more often than they have 2 tight ends. We've seen the 12 personnel. We've seen it win a Super Bowl in 2017. But what have we seen the last 2 years, specifically last year, when Ertz and Goedert were their 2 top pass receivers, or pass catchers, I should say, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs. I know there's a lot of circumstances and things that went into that, but I just think that the way the NFL is trending right now with speed, with passing, I think they want to go the more traditional 3 receiver set and just play with 1 tight end more often than not. Yeah, you can still play with 2, but I don't think they want to do that as much anymore. I think going into the 2020 decade, they want to go back to the more traditional way of doing offense. And I think that's where it might hurt Zach Ertz, because in that scenario, Goddard's a better blocker, and they only need 1 tight end, and they can get by with, a backup type of tight end. Like, they signed Richard Rodgers. I'm not saying it's going to be him, but I think that's the way they want to go from now on going into this decade, is they want to play a more traditional 2 or 3 wide receiver offense and get away from the 2 tight ends. That's just my suspicion. Things that I've learned.
It might not be wrong.
Yeah,
it might not be wrong, because I mean, if they were thinking my way, they get the deal done with Zach Ertz. I think, because enough with the 2s. I hate when people bring up the salary cap for extensions, because it's easy to manipulate the cap when it comes to contract extensions. It's harder when you're signing free agents. Because look at the Chiefs. That's $177 in cap, and then they gave Mahomes the largest quarterback deal in NFL history, the largest deal in NFL history. They gave Chris Jones a huge deal. They gave Travis Kelce a huge deal. You could manipulate the cap issues with extensions.
Yeah.
Now, your theory kind of sounds more realistic when you're thinking again, Zach Ertz has 2 years left on his deal, but it's, from all likes and purposes, it sounds like next offseason, if something doesn't get done, you won't be seeing Zach Ertz at the Novacare complex.
No, I think they would trade him. I think they really would. If they can't get something done, I don't think they go into that last year on a contract year. I think they would try to look and see what they could get for Ertz in terms of draft cap or draft collateral.
So now with all that time has passed, I know Dakota's message is on the bottom, and I completely agree with him, but I know that everything is past. Right now, what does your gut tell you about the Eagles and Zach Ertz?
Me?
Yeah, with everything that happened.
I think they're going to continue to they're going to try to get something done, I think they almost have to. I mean, Ertz is one of their homegrown players, a guy that has been great in the community on and off the field, never been in any kind of trouble. He's just too good of a guy to just give up and say, we don't want to sign you. So I think they're going to still try to make a push, but I think there's going to be a number that they're not going to go beyond, and they're going to set that number. And if it's not agreeable to Zach, then I think he goes. But I think they have to keep trying. To me, they just can't throw up their hands and say, see ya. They have to.
I think it just depends what the wide receivers do this season. Because I think if your theory is correct, 3 wide receivers, or at least 2, have to show the Eagles something this year for them to think, let's put our faith in these guys. It has to be Rager, and it has to be like a Hightower award. One of these guys, or excuse me, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, because he's. Yeah. I always forget that.
I mean, you have guys. Let's see who separates themselves, and look, it doesn't mean they can't go out and draft another one in 2021.
I would fully expect them to. See, with me, it's you cut the dead weight with the Alshon Jeffrey. You either renegotiate with Deshaun or he retires, because for some reason I had this feeling this might be his last year, and you go strictly budget at wide receiver. You go strictly budget because you're not getting the wide receiver production you expect. Why pay the money for it? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Pay that wide receiver money to the guys that are producing as your wide receivers in Goddard and Ertz.
Yeah.
Then go cheap at wide receiver. Go into 2021. Rashad Bateman's out there. Jamar Chase is out there. All the Alabama guys are out there. Go with one of those guys. Let them grow with Rager or J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. We'll get into this right after we finish up this little conversation here, because, again, his hype is picking up a lot of steam. Go with these young guys, and then keep the established guys in Ertz and Goddard, and keep running 12 personnel. That's just me. I know what you said is correct, and 12 personnel dies out for them easily, but I just think because they don't have the speed on the outside. If you're going to be a completely underneath offense, I don't think you can succeed in the 12 personnel. You have to have this threat to make the safety stay honest. You need that safety to play off to help your guys free up the middle of the space of the field where Ertz and Goddard succeed the most. So if your hope is Jalen Rager, Deshaun Jackson, John Hightower, Quez Watkins give you that vertical element this year through the whole entire season. And then I think 12 personnel looks great.
Yeah. Look at the Chiefs. I mean, Travis Kelce's tight end 1, 2, 3. They have speed everywhere. McCole Hardman, Watkins. They have the new running back Edwards-Helaire. I mean, that to me is what the league is trending towards. Is let's just throw
absolutely.
Speed. And these 2 tight ends don't have the speed. They're reliable, dependable, underneath catchers. Maybe they give you a little yards after the catch, not much, not like Kelce. But to me, everybody looked at the draft 3 wide receivers because, hey, we got hurt at that position last year. I think it has more to do with the Eagles want to go more traditional with speed everywhere and cut back to 1 tight end. That's just the way I see it. I mean, I think there was more to drafting the 3 receivers and bringing in Hightower, who opted out with the COVID. Not Hightower.
Yeah, it was a good one. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Right. Thanks. I think there's more to it than just saying, wow, we got really injured last year. Now we need more guys, new guys. I think there's more to it than just that.
Maybe, but I also think that they realize at the same time these day 3 picks don't usually pan out for them. I think they might just win, like, whoever we get is a crapshoot at this point. We just need somebody to produce from a speed point. Because I know. I will say because you're there every day. Hightower and Watkins surprised everybody at camp. They made the 53-man roster for a reason. Let's see. I'm just not. I mean, we've fallen for the Mac Hollins and the Sheldon Gibsons of the world, the Josh Huffs of the world. I'm all in on John Hightower though. Don't get me wrong. I was a little hesitant on Quez Watkins' film because the alligator arms showed a little more than I liked. But like you said, he looked completely different at camp. He looked really good. These guys are a book connection.
You say day 3 guys, but remember, this was a really loaded wide receiver.
It was, yes.
So these day 3 guys could have been day 2 guys if that's the distinction.
Well, that's what I said about John Hightower. I said he's a third-round pick in any other draft because I completely think he's like a John Brown-type wide receiver. Quez Watkins, though, I wasn't that high on, though. To be honest with you, me personally, I wasn't huge on him.
Okay.
We'll see how he does, though.
Yeah, we'll see how he does. He's on the IR right now. He's not going to do anything for at least 3 weeks.
Well, yeah, first 3 weeks, yeah. But Deshaun Jackson, get your popcorn ready. When he dropped that line real quick, I was like, let's go. He dropped the TO line. Deshaun Jackson's a huge play for me in daily fantasy this week because I think with Washington secondaries, talk about the Eagles secondary being brand new. Besides, I mean, Landon Collins is only 1 year in there, and it's a whole new defensive scheme over there as well. That entire secondary is brand new. I think Deshaun could have another week 1 type performance like last year. I think he can do it. I think he gets over 100 receiving yards.
How cool would it be to see him catch a 50-yard bomb and Rager to do the same thing? That would just be like, Eagles fans hysteria.
Oh, we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves. We would not know what to do with ourselves. And then not only that, once the air yard stats come out for Carson Wentz's passes on those passes, we're all going to be dead.
Yeah. But I you know what? Look, Deshaun is one of my favorite players to watch these last couple of years, and he didn't play much last year, but just the way he runs his routes and the way I didn't see him drop a single pass in camp. I mean, he just catches everything and he makes it look easy. And he's still fast. I mean, to me, he's just a really, really fun player to watch. And you hope we get to see that over 16 weeks. And I think you're right, Connor. I think it could start with a big bang on Sunday.
I think they do have a big bang, but Josh Allen starting against the Jets, though, I don't know. That Jets secondary is pretty bad, Dakota. You might want to stick with that one a little bit. But I am expecting I'm expecting them to start off the first half slow. I think that's what's going to happen. I think the rust from COVID is going to play into it. But then again, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. That's how they start the games off usually. I think they're going to start off slow. But I do think that they will light it up offensively like they did week 1 last year. You're just stuck on this offensive line, and I completely understand why.
Well, I believe in controlling the line of scrimmage is a big way to victory, and I think that the Eagles are going to have a hard time consistently controlling the line. I really do, and that could lead to some tough sledding, some turnovers. Carson, of course, still has the fumbling issue. If he gets hit, you don't want any cheap turnovers. You don't want to give that offense that's already limited. You don't want to give them a short field to make it easier for them.
Losing Brandon Brooks is so tough, but I mean, the rest of the offensive line is. Do you have any worries or qualms about Jason Peters not really being at left tackle the whole entire training camp, or do you think he just picks it off right where he left off? Because I feel like he's going to pick it up right where he left off.
Yeah, I would suspect. I mean, Jason Kelsey said he's probably done more left kick slides that he over his course of time here that he could do them in his sleep. I mean, it's just a matter of the communication, getting the terminology, which probably changes, regularly from season to season, from week to week even. It's just a matter of getting the communication, the signals down. But, he's played that position his entire career, 17, 18 years. I mean, yeah, I think he'll be fine. Injuries, that's the big thing with Peters. Injuries. You hope that he can stay healthy, at least to get through the game and put a few weeks together healthy.
What do you think about the Eagles giving him that raise after all?
Well,
you surprised?
Look, if they don't do it, who knows what kind of animosity would develop. I mean, it could have been a crisis in any other organization, a 5-alarm fire, if you will, somewhere else had the Eagles not done it. But look, they to me, they did the right thing. I mean, clearly left tackle is one of the most important positions on the football field after quarterback. I mean, you're protecting the quarterback's blind side. You have to stand tall out there. And, Right guard, not so much. I mean, yeah, you have a role and a job, but it's not as important to me as playing out on that island at left tackle. So yeah, give him a raise, give him extra money.
Yeah, I'm fine with it because again, he signed with the president of him playing right guard, so he understands that that's a cheaper position, no matter what, than left tackle.
Right.
9 times out of 10, I'm okay with giving him the raise. I just think you give him the raise, then you tell Zach Ertz, "Hey, take it easy there, pal. We understand that you've been on our offense for the last 3 years, but take it easy." Like that.
Well,
That's
again,
where I'm.
Peters is a 1-year deal. You know,
Yeah, it's a lot easier. You're right.
38. Ertz is completely different contract situation.
It is.
Lane Johnson even made room. I mean, do you want 6 guys to take a pay cut or restructure their contracts to fit Ertz under there? I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at because Ertz, you want to get done with a long-term deal. Peters is, 3 months and he's gone. 4 months and he's gone. It's easy.
True. Yeah, that's true. I just number 11 better ante up some money for his boy.
He might.
I think he will, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough either. Because you're right. The thing that we're all gonna kill Howie Roseman about this offseason if Zach Ertz does leave is the cap situation. But I will start right now saying I can't. He did not see COVID coming. If he did, I think this country would be in a lot better shape. I'm all on the I'm not going to blame Howie Roseman for this cap situation because before COVID, it wasn't looking that great either, but it was manageable at least. And I thought Howie Roseman would get out of it. Now, I don't think they're going to do any free agents next year.
Yeah.
I think they're going to go strictly through the draft and just hope that they have a core going that they build right now. But
they might shop in the cheaper aisles. They might shop in the cheaper aisles of free agency next year. I don't see them bringing in a big stud name.
Yeah, I see like the NRC type signings, the Will Parks type signings, like that type of stuff.
Deals.
Yeah. Or keep those guys. I don't really mind how the team's constructed right now. I just think they have to go into the next draft and so many questions with Andre Dillard, so many questions at right guard because who knows what Brandon Brooks happens with Brandon Brooks at this point. But speaking of right guard, what are your feelings on Matt Pryor? Are you there with that, Matt Pryor? Are you much rather see, or is there somebody at right guard you'd rather see?
Well, yeah, I'd rather see Larry Warford at right guard, but I think
he opted out.
Yep. I think he would come at a high price. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm more comfortable with Matt Pryor at right guard than I am at left tackle or right tackle, just because I haven't seen him do it. I mean, we saw Pryor step in and do reasonably well last year at guard, and he's a smart kid. He's got the long arms. He's got pretty good feet for a guard. I mean, I'm more comfortable with him at guard than I am at the tackle spot. And, even Herbig, I mean, Herbig's a powerful guy. He went to Stanford. He's a bright kid. He's, he played with Tua in high school in Hawaii. He played with Marcus Mariota. But he's young, and he's never done it. So I haven't really seen him. In the locker room last year when you saw him, he's like everybody's little brother. He was 21 at the time. He's running around like a puppy dog, goofing around with all the other guys. He just wide-eyed and happy to be there. So this is his second year. Maybe he can become a good guard or center if God forbid something happens to Kelsey. But I like Pryor at guard. To answer your question, yeah, I like him better at guard than tackle.
I thought he was serviceable. Again, small sample size, but I thought this is the type of guard that the Eagles always want to get anyways. This is the type of guard that the Eagles, again, he looks like Brandon Brooks. Body size. He looks like Isaac Seumalo body size. So I thought this is the type of guy that they could actually work with and develop. I'm interested to see. I love Brandon Brooks. I think he does come back this season, by the way. I think at some point at the end of the year, depending on how strong the offensive line is, this depends on Matt Pryor. If Matt Pryor takes a leap this year and shows them that he could be at least as good as Seumalo, a little bit less, because I think Seumalo is really good, so I don't want to say that. But maybe they decide Brandon Brooks might be one of those tough decisions too, and they move on with Matt Pryor at guard. I don't think it's that far-fetched.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you want to rush Brooks back. I mean, he looked like Superman coming back in less than 8 months last year. He's a year older. If it's 8 months, it happened in early June. What are we looking at there for January?
Like January, yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
That's playoff time. Yeah, that's playoff time.
do you want to disrupt the line chemistry if you're in the playoffs? I mean, I don't know. I think that's very, very optimistic that Brooks comes back, and the Eagles are holding out hope, obviously, by doing what they did with him and with the injury stuff, with the injury reserve. So, but I just don't see it. Sorry.
That's fine. It's why I have you on here for your opinions.
Yeah.
But J.J. Arcega-Whiteside hype. Let's get into it, man. Howie Roseman says J.J. looks like the wide receiver we drafted, which, okay, let's hear it. I mean, you were at camp. Obviously, the red zone touchdowns were a thing, but again, I thought they were always the thing at camp. Is this hype warranted, Ed?
Well, I mean, look, he had a good rookie camp, too, in training camp. And then the lights came on, and he looked completely lost. I mean, you hope he's not one of those guys when the lights come on a Sunday or Monday night, whenever, that he's not one of those guys that just kind of short circuits in the mind or gets overwhelmed by the situation. You wouldn't think he's that guy. He played at Stanford, played in some big games, I'm sure, there. But I right now I'm believing the hype. I mean, what else can I do? My eyes showed me that he looks lighter. He lost 5 to 10 pounds. He looks faster. He worked with a track coach every day in the off season. He had a lot of support around him. I think this virtual off season helped him maybe more than others because he was able to spend time with his parents, who are both former Olympians. So there's that gene in the family. There's that mentality in the family. And I just think that helped him. And I'm going to buy the hype for now. I can't after seeing what I saw. I mean, I just think that, I think he's going to play a factor. And I think we saw even more important than those red zone catches, he was able to get open between the 20s. And you saw Carson Wentz have a little more faith in him, a little more trust to throw him the ball. That catch that he dropped early against, I think it was the Lions early in the season last year, down near the goal line, I think that messed with him for a while. And I think that kind of put a little doubt in Carson's head that, I can't throw the ball to him and trust him to catch it. So I think it's a new start, fresh start, and I think he's going to make the most of it. I really do. He's an easy guy to root for. He's an easy kid to like. I do hope he figures it out, but I believe the hype right now.
He's confident. He sounds very confident when he talks to you guys. He sounds like a different wide receiver that's not really letting everything get to him. It's. I want to say it's a little different than Nelson Aguilar. I think Nelson Aguilar wore his emotions on his face really well. With J-Jaw, I think with the Philadelphia media, like you guys know, it's tough dealing with you guys. It's a tough crowd to please.
And the fan base. I mean, let's face it. Mm-hmm. And he talked about that, the mental part of it, where he wanted to make everybody like him. He was worried about what people thought of him. And you have to have thicker skin than that if you're going to succeed in this city.
Absolutely. You absolutely have to have thicker skin than that. But he's looking the part right now, my friend. I will say.
Yeah. I mean, how many opportunities is he going to get in the course of a game? I mean, that's the thing with the two tight ends. You have running backs that can catch. I mean, he's not going to have a large number of targets, probably, maybe 3 or 4 a game. And he's got to make the most of them. He's got to show that, you can come back to me. I'll catch the ball. I'll figure out a way. And he's going to have some limited opportunities to do that. So he's got to make the most of them, and he's got to do it early.
Thank you, Bob, for your comment on the show. Did you just, I don't know if your phone's buzzing right now. Vikings just gave Dalvin Cook a huge contract, and the Saints are finalizing their huge contract with Alvin Kamara. Running backs are getting paid right now, Ed.
Yeah, Miles Sanders is happy. I'll tell you that. Another year like he had last year, and there's another big deal that Howie's going to have to get done.
That's going to be interesting. That's a whole different topic for another day, my friend. But that's going to be interesting to see if the Eagles pay a running back. They took care of Shady when it was time to take care of Shady, but money's a little different now. I think Sanders' deals will top Shady's deals when the next one he signs anyway. So
you're right. What about this? That's another topic for another time.
That is because I don't want to get that in people's heads now. Matt Sanders is just coming off his rookie year. Let's enjoy year 2 before we start talking contracts with him. But Craig James, underdog hero, man. So Jim Schwartz has these guys where he comes in and he just loves these guys. I'm talking Nate Gary, Avonte Maddox, Jalen Mills. Craig James looks like he's the next one in line. Excuse me, I forgot Derek Barnett as well. Craig James looks like he's the next guy in line to be a Jim Schwartz guy. So if Darius Slay goes down, Ed, I know we talked about all what they can do. Joe Mills back a corner, all that stuff. What? Are we going to see Craig James come in for Darius Slay, though, if Darius Slay goes down? Is this the guy that they're like, you know what? We completely agree. We love this guy. We're pushing him out there. Craig James, go out there and play.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to special teams. The Eagles are very cognizant of special teams this year. And Craig James, they love him on special teams. Now, all of a sudden, if you have to make him your starting cornerback because something happens to Maddox or Slay, then you got to figure out the special team side of it. You're not going to play him as much on the teams as you'd like because he's got a full-time role on defense. Jim also mentioned that Cravon LeBlanc can play on the outside if need be. But your options are kind of limited. They didn't keep many D-backs. So really it's either LeBlanc or James, right? I might be missing somebody in here, but
you're not. Unfortunately, you're not.
They made Trevor Williams one of their protected practice squad players going into Sunday, a cornerback. I don't know if he'll be active, but it's a concern that they only have that few number at cornerback, and then who do you go with? Is it LeBlanc or James? Or do you move Mills back there and throw Kayvon Wallace out there more? They do have some flexibility in the secondary with some guys. But right now it sure looks like James would be the number 2 guy if someone got one of the starters got hurt.
I don't think LeBlanc can play outside, to be honest with you. I'm a big Kravon LeBlanc fan, but he plays the nickel so well. I don't think he could be an outside corner. Craig James, I just get the visions of Minnesota stuck in my head. I know he had that interception. He had the tip to get to the lead of the Nigel Bradham interception in the end zone versus Green Bay, but I really think he's a special teams guy.
And then you forget Nicole Roby Coleman. He's a guy that maybe he can play outside. Schwartz, I think, said that he could even go outside.
I think he can. I do think.
I do too.
Majority has to be in the slot though. He's a top 5 nickel corner.
But maybe he's the number 2 guy. Maybe they say you got to move out there if something happens to Maddox or Slay, and then what do you do in the slot? Then you put Cravon in the slot.
That's probably what they're thinking. I would assume that's probably where their heads are at right now. I would assume. Because I was going to say it right now. I think a lot of people want to see Darius Slay versus Terry McLaurin. If I'm the Eagles, I might put Nicole Roby-Coleman on Terry McLaurin a lot. Huge reason why he's very fast. He matched the Sean speed at camp. You saw it up close to your own eyes. You should know. I think that might be a good matchup for the Eagles if they decide Slay, because Slay's a great corner. We all understand that. Terry McLaurin's really fast. Terry McLaurin's a speed guy. I think every corner like a Darius Slay that's really good at press will struggle with speed guys like Terry McLaurin, and he did. He gave up 70-something yards to him last year as a rookie. I think Nicole Roby-Coleman would match up really well with Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, I think Schwartz is going to do his best to try to confuse Haskins. Second-year guy, hasn't really seen, a whole lot yet. I could see where Slay maybe lines up over McLaurin, and then when the ball's snapped, maybe he runs into the slot, and Nicole Roby-Coleman comes over to cover McLaurin. I could see them disguising different coverages to get NRC on McLaurin for sure. But as far as the whole game, no, probably not. I think they could split it, or they start with Slay, and if Slay's doing well against him, then Slay stays on him. But if McLaurin's making some plays, then maybe they switch it up a little bit more. But I don't see NRC on him full time during the game. I could see
not full time.
Mix of both, maybe. Yeah,
I definitely see a mix of both. Because I think a lot of people are going to see it right off the bat and see why is not Darius Slay. Jim Schwartz is already up to his antics. He's not shadowing the best wide receiver. I don't think this is the matchup to be mad about that on. I think Nicole Roby-Coleman might fare a little bit better with Terry McLaurin than Darius Slay would. That's not a knock on Slay, because I'm super high on Nicole Roby-Coleman. I think that was the most underrated addition this offseason for sure. He's a top 3 top 3 nickel corner in the NFL, if you ask me, for my straight-up opinion. I can't wait to see what he does this year. And we had a comment on here about NRC reminds me of a better Patrick Robinson. Completely agree. I think he's better than Patrick Robinson. I think Patrick Robinson is a really good slot corner, but he had some couple outliner seasons in San Diego and Philadelphia. Nicole Roby-Coleman's good wherever he goes. He's been great in Buffalo. He's been great in, again, he was in Buffalo with Jim Schwartz for everybody that doesn't remember at home. That's why I think his transition is going to be seamless with the Eagles. He was great with Los Angeles Rams. We all remember him there. He was great there. I think he's going to be great with the Eagles. So I'm all in on Nicole Roby-Coleman. I do think he's going to be a better Patrick Robinson.
Well, let's wait and see. I mean, Patrick Robinson had a great year the 1 year he was here. Big interception in that NFC Championship game. Huge momentum.
I respect Patrick Robinson. I just think Nicole Roby-Coleman's not good, my friend.
You would think that's probably true, but let's see him win a Super Bowl like Patrick Robinson did in Philadelphia. Robinson was huge when he was here in Philadelphia. Let's see if NRC – I mean, on paper, yeah, NRC's better, should be better, but I'm not going to put him there yet because I want to see what he can do. And I'm just not going to be that quick to just put Patrick Robinson out to the curb, man. He's awesome. He was awesome.
I think everybody agrees with you with that. I just fully think that Nicole Roby-Coleman is that good and that he will deliver that type of impact. Actually, we have a great question now before we end the show in the final score prediction. What are your – because I'm going to get my predictions too. Regular predictions for Sunday, Ed. What do you have?
I'm going to say 3 catches, 40-ish yards, and a touchdown. How about that?
3 catches, 40-ish yards, and a touchdown?
I think he gets his first touchdown out of the way as a rookie early. I'm going with it. Josh, what question?
Yeah, we're going to get to that. I think Rager has his welcome to the NFL moment week 1. I think he has some explosive plays where the Eagles are like, whoa. Eagles fans are like, whoa, this guy's legit. And then the Eagles start utilizing him right. I think that confidence because, again, you cannot stress this enough. His dad was a former NFL player.
Yep.
A former Super Bowl champion. He knows what it took to become a player that wasn't that well heard of because, again, we're talking about a third-string defensive tackle most of his career. But he always made an impact each stop he went to for Denver, Indianapolis, Philadelphia. You instill that type of knowledge into your son. Your son watches you firsthand grow that way in the NFL while also having that talent. I think Jalen Reagor goes for 7 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown.
Awesome. Hey, let me.
I think he goes crazy.
Deshaun Jackson holds the rookie record for most yards receiving at 912. He set it in 2008. Can Reagor beat that this year?
I don't think that.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to do that. There's too many mouths to feed.
Yeah.
I'm going back to 2008. That's Kevin Curtis, Brent Selleck.
I think Hack Basket was around then too, maybe.
Yeah. Vaughn was around.
Yeah.
So that's not. You don't have Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Deshaun Jackson. I don't think he gets 912. I think he can get 800. And if he does that, dude. Come on, man. A rookie wide receiver putting up 800 yards his rookie year would be
sweet.
The Eagles need that.
Hey, Jordan Matthews came close his rookie year. I think he had about 8.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, Jordan Matthews had a really, really good rookie year.
Jordan Matthews was very productive from the slot, numbers-wise. It's just the usage was really high there too, though. Yeah. I don't think you're going to see that with Reagor this year, just because of all the mouths they have to feed. It's you knew it's a little different circumstances, but you're right. Jordan Matthews, I think he had like 800-something yards his rookie year.
Yeah, he came close. I think he had 870, something like that. And he had some touchdowns, too. I mean, he had a good rookie year, but somebody's going to break that D-Jack record eventually. And it would not surprise me if it's Reagor. I know
it wouldn't be surprising if it's Reagor. It wouldn't.
I think he's a high-volume, deep-threat type of guy that can do it.
I think he's the next Odell Beckham. I really think that he's that type of player. He also has some comps to C. Smith and Derek Mason. I'll take either one of those guys.
Yeah.
I just think, you're right, though. If Deshaun goes down, if it's like the same thing as last year and he only plays like 4 to 5 games with the Eagles, then my answer to that question changes, though. Because you're looking at Jalen Reagor playing straight up Z, and you're not taking him off the field until he's hurt or he needs to be gassed or anything like that. Then I'm like, okay, I think Jalen Reagor can break that record. Yes, absolutely, because that's your Carson Wentz is one of the best deep throwers in the NFL. He just doesn't have the chance to showcase it because they don't have the guys.
They got the guys now if they stay healthy.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to see a lot of deep balls.
This Joshua question, though, I like it. Do you think Josh West takes Barnett's starter spot this season? I will answer my opinion because I know you can give a more thorough analysis from this. I do not think that is going to happen. I think Josh Sweat is great pass rusher. He's a better pass rusher than Derek Barnett for sure, no doubt in my mind. I think from a rotational pass rushing standpoint, I would take Derek Barnett off the field and put Josh Sweat on, absolutely. I think Derek Barnett is really good against the run. I think the Eagles value that a lot for their defensive line, given the linebacker position. That's where and again, most fans don't care about that from their defensive end. They want the 10-digit sack numbers. I get it. I also think Derek Barnett's going to really benefit from Javon Hargrave being next to him. So I don't think that happens. I think Barnett stays as a starter again. This is a Jim Schwartz type guy. I don't think that happens at all. But I do think Josh Sweat, you have to keep increasing the snaps as they go. He pretty much became their Chris Long last year. I don't think that's going to change this year. So I would be interested to see if he starts coming in and he's more productive pass rusher than Derek Barnett, what the Eagles start thinking there. Because again, it's Matt Burke this time. This isn't Philip Daniels. This isn't Chris Wilson. This is Matt Burke this time. I think if he has a different opinion on a guy than those guys did, they may make a change. So who knows? But I think Derek Barnett claims that spot this season for sure. I don't think he gives it up.
Matt Burke has Schwartz's ear for sure. I mean, those two go back a very long time. I mean, Schwartz gave Burke his chance to be a football coach back in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if Burke thinks Sweat's better, then he's going to tell Schwartz, and that's going to carry some weight. But I think maybe on Sunday, Sweat starts over Barnett because I don't think Barnett's going to play. So maybe on Sunday, Sweat has that job. And look, if Sweat has 3 sacks, and he looks good, and he stops the run, and he hustles after the ball. I mean, that's the one hallmark of Barnett. Like if you watch every play that he's on the field, he is around the ball no matter where it ends up on the field. If it's a 10-yard run on the other side of the field, you'll see Barnett show up in the camera because, I mean, he's right there. I mean, that guy hustles on every single play, and the Eagles love that. That's why Schwartz loves him. The guy is an out-and-out hustler. But if Sweat comes in and he puts up a monster game and maybe he Wally Pips Derek Barnett and hangs on to that starting job if Barnett's ready to come back week 2, week 3, and Sweat's still kicking butt. Maybe Sweat hangs on to it. But I think, all things being equal, that Barnett will hang on to that job.
Yeah, I don't see him not hanging on to that job. There's no way. Ed, what's your final score prediction? I'm interested to hear what you think because, again, this is a brand new season. This is a brand new I think the rust is going to show for both teams.
Yeah. I think that, we saw the Houston-Kansas City game. Kansas City's offense looked great. I think defenses will probably be ahead of the offenses, so I think it might be a low-scoring type of game, and especially when you look at the personnel that Washington has. If the Eagles can take care of the football and not give it up and give Washington short fields, I think Washington is going to have a hard time putting enough points on the board to keep pace with Philadelphia. I don't see how they can score more than two touchdowns worth of points, Washington. I really don't. Unless the Eagles, like I said, make it easy for them, and I sure hope they don't. But I think you're probably looking at I'm going to probably go with something like a 24-13 type of game. I think I picked in my prediction column, I think I have them winning 20-13 Philadelphia. I think the spread's 6 points. I think they cover it narrowly. I know these teams play close, hard-fought, down-to-the-wire games more or less, but the Eagles haven't lost to Washington since 2016. They've gone 6-0 against them in that span. Carson Wentz is 5-0 against Washington in his career. Those are trends I like. So I think Philadelphia finds a way to win the game, and I'll call it 20-13.
Yeah, I was going to say 23-10 because I agree. I just think the switch to decide to move on from Adrian Peterson this late heading into the season was a little odd. J.D. Gibson is supposed to start. You and I talked about it last night. I don't think Antonio Gibson. I think he makes some sort of impact because, again, he's a good receiver. I just don't think he's going to make a huge impact running the ball. Bryce Love is still hasn't really gotten his feet wet in the NFL. Their run game's going to be awful. Their offensive line is awful besides Brandon Restrieve. I don't really see how they score that much either. I do think outside of Terry McLaurin, Steven Sims is a guy to watch out for at number 15 for the Washington. Excuse me. I think that's a guy that might give the Eagles a little bit of trouble, given he's a little elusive. But other than that, yeah, they have no tight ends. Offensive line's awful. Dwayne Haskins in a new system, because again, they hired Scott Turner as an offensive coordinator. That doesn't put any fear in me whatsoever. That guy does not really implement a great system. Carolina looked terribly offensively underneath him the last couple of years. So I'm not that worried about what they can do offensively. I am worried about what they can do defensively. They have the guys up front in that front seven to ruin Carson Wentz this season. So I am a little bit worried about that. I think the rust is going to show from the offensive line a little bit too. I mean, Lane's he's practiced, but I mean, he was on the COVID list, the surgery. Matt Pryor, again, he pretty much made him play left tackle the whole entire training camp. I really don't know how much time he really did at right guard. Is he going to be that prepared? Jason Peters, like you said, very prone to miss some snaps. It's going to be interesting, Ed. But I do think with all of the speed that the Eagles have, the deep ball accuracy that Carson Wentz possesses, I think they could take over the game. I think it'd be 24-13. The Eagles win.
Yeah, we both agree they win. No doubt.
Tyler,
our boy Tyler asked a question earlier if it's a must-win. I don't think it's a must-win. I don't think there's any.
I think he's trolling, man. He likes to make those little funny comments. Yeah. I don't think it's a must-win either. I don't think he thinks. I hope he doesn't think that. But Dakota, one last thing. I don't think we will be as sloppy for some reason. I think having most of our staff from last year is going to be really undervalued until we were playing. I agree with that though. I think he's absolutely right. That's the one thing where because we just partnered with Tally Site for predictions, and I'll have my predictions out on tomorrow's stream. I do think the Eagles win the NFC East because of the cohesion on the coaching staff, the veteran of the coaching staff. I think these brand new staffs, I think Mike McCarthy will do wonders in Dallas offensively. I mean, they were a good offensive team as is. I think they're going to fail a little bit defensively with Mike Nolan as defensive coordinator. I think that was a bad choice on their part. Their secondary is completely questionable from top to bottom. Washington, I like Ron Rivera. I thought he should have brought a new offensive mind in. Jack Del Rio's a great hire. They're still a ways away, though, personnel-wise, so I don't think they're going to make noise this year. New York, I don't think they had the talent on defense to compete to win this division. I had reservations about Joe Judge and the way he's running his institution over there right now. We'll see with him. Jury's still out because he's so unknown commodity. Daniel Jones surprised me last year to a point, but he fumbles a lot too. I don't think the Giants are in the position to compete. It's really just Dallas and Philadelphia again for the NFC East. I think what Dakota is saying will play into the NFC East, though, winning the NFC East. I think the cohesion between the Eagles staff, the longevity they have with this team, Doug Peterson being the established coach that he is, I think this propels them into the postseason. I think they propels them to the NFC East. Not saying Dallas won't make it. I just think the Eagles win the NFC East and be the first time that they are a repeat winner since 2001, 2004, through 2004.
Well, yeah. 03, 04, I think was the last. Or 04, yeah, 03, 04 was.
It was through that whole entire years that they had that were winning the NFC East, but they're the last NFC East team to do that.
Yeah, I still think Dallas is going to win the division.
Ed!
I'm sorry, I do.
He ruined the stream.
I see the Eagles win the division, but I don't know. I think Dallas's talent level is better on paper. I think McCarthy is a very good coach. Did a great job in Green Bay. Could have done better, of course. Probably should have won more than one Super Bowl with Rodgers. But he got the Packers to the playoffs more often than not. I think the Eagles will still win 10 games. I think they'll get in as a wild card. You have 7 teams in each conference now make the playoffs. I think they'll get one of those wild card spots. But this division is just so topsy-turvy, and it's for a reason. I mean, each team, it's really been Dallas and Philadelphia that's gone back and forth, and I just think now it's Dallas's turn. And eventually we'll have a repeat winner. I don't know who it'll be, but I don't think it's going to be this year, I'm sorry to say.
I just don't think their defense does it for me, Ed. I think their offense, look, CeeDee Lamb is a great addition. Mike McCarthy as a play caller is a great addition. Keeping Kellen Moore, I thought was incredibly smart because of the strides Dak Prescott took as a pocket passer underneath him. But the offensive standpoint, Randall Cobb had 800-something yards for them last year. I think it's fair to predict CeeDee Lamb does along the same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he does that much better than that. Even if they have 1,000-yard wide receivers, they don't have the tight end. Blake Jarwin's okay. Zeke's going to be Zeke, but again, I think that's where they take a step back is in their run game because Mike McCarthy is not that fond of running the ball in Green Bay, and I think that's what was one of his major downfalls was not being able to commit to the run well. I don't think that is going to change much. I think Zeke is obviously not Aaron Jones. He's a lot better, but I think the run game is going to take a little bit of a step back with Mike McCarthy as coach. But the defense, I don't think their defense can compete that well. I do like Everson Griffith's addition, but he has shown the last 2 seasons he wears down at the end of the season when you ask a lot from him. And where the way the Dallas' defensive line is looking like right now, they're going to ask a lot of Everson Griffith again this season. Gerald McCoy they don't have this year. Dante Poe, probably a 2-down guy. Tyrone Crawford's okay. DeMarcus Lawrence is a great player. I won't lie. Top 5 defensive end in the league, I think. The linebackers, they're now asking Jalen Smith to go weak side, and they're going to move LVE to Mike this year. They can't figure that out. Those guys, I mean, LVE has a neck issue. Jalen's coming off a disappointing season. They can't figure linebacker out. And then to complete the secondary, I like Trevon Diggs. Don't think it's a good rookie year to be a corner. Reggie Robinson, I also liked him in the draft. Shinobi Awuzie, I guess they're going to move him to safety now. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I thought he was struggling mightily. They cut Clinton Dix because he underwhelmed completely in camp. Darian Thompson beat him out for the job, which if you're starting Darian Thompson, I'm not that worried about you. And then Xavier Woods is an average starter. It's just their defense just doesn't do it for me. I don't think their defense can compete with the Eagles' offense if the speed matches what we expect it to match this year.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. I agree with you, though. No matter what, it's coming down to Eagles and Dallas.
Yeah.
It's going to be Eagles and
sign Earl Thomas. I mean, they could still sign Earl Thomas, but
yeah, sure.
Help. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But it's going to be a good opener for them. They opened Sunday night with the Rams. I'll probably be listening to that on the radio coming back from Washington. Unfortunately, I'd like to watch it on the television, but I don't think I'll be back by then. In fact, I know I won't be. But I'll listen to it on the radio.
Are you getting into the game? They're letting you into FedEx? Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
12. There's only room for 12 visiting media members. But I'm one of them, which is nice because there's nice. Guys that cover the team daily. But yeah, I have my credential, my parking pass, and don't expect a whole lot of traffic going down in the morning with no Eagles fans making the trip, and that's big. I mean, this is usually a home field advantage for Philadelphia. Going into Washington, usually because the fans take over the whole stadium.
I was about to say, Washington's used to their stadium being empty, so
yeah, right. I mean, it's to me, it's it's to the Eagles' disadvantage not to have the fans there, but it's going to be. Will be interesting to see how they have that emotion. If they can get, I'm sure they'll be fired up. Both teams will be fired up, especially Washington. I mean, what an off season, with the name change, the culture that was revealed under Daniel Snyder, the Washington articles, and, the coach has cancer. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff off the field. So I imagine Washington's players are going to be pretty fired up to actually play a game and put that crap behind them.
Oh, I agree completely. There's too much new there. I just think there's too much new there. I think the Eagles will handle them. We hope. But I'll have to hear from you after the game, see how you went, see what transpired during the game. We'll talk to you then for sure. Ed, thanks for joining us live. Again, of course, we'll always have you on again. Follow Ed on Twitter, on Sports Illustrated, Eagles, for all his Eagles articles. He actually did just post something about his game predictions and what he's thinking for this season for the Eagles. So go check that out right now. We will be on iHeartRadio.
At KRACZE is the Twitter. And a shout-out to Shannon here who says, Happy Eagles Eve, everybody. So happy Eagles Eve to Shannon, too, and everybody else. Yeah. You too, Connor.
Yep, you too, Ed. I'm glad you're going to be there. Okay, again, the show will be on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, right? Every other podcast platform right as soon as we get off air. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right, thanks, everybody.